If you know what's good for you, please elect this guy. I am completely serious.
What the purpose is about this entire project, it's not simply to raise class consciousness, but to win socialism. And obviously raising class consciousness is a critical part of that. But making sure that we have candidates that both understand that and are willing to put that forward at every which moment that they have, at every which opportunity that they're given. We have to continue to elect more socialists. And we have to ensure that we are unapologetic about our socialism. There are also other issues that we firmly believe in, whether it's BDS, right, or whether it's the end goal of ceasing the means of production, where we do not have the same level of support at this very moment. And what I want to say is that it is critical that in the way that we organize, in the way that we set up our work and our priorities, that we do not leave any one issue for the other, that we do not meet a moment and only look at what people are ready for, but that we are doing both of these things in tandem. Because it is critical for us to both meet people where they're at and to also organize for what is correct and for what is right, and to ensure that over time we.
He's about to say the quiet part out loud, so listen very carefully. The moment they start talking about organizing and they start talking about meeting the moment, you know the craziness is going to come out.
Bring people to that issue. The ramifications of victory here is the difference between life and death for so many of our brothers, sisters, and family beyond the binary across this borough of Queens. It's the difference between having cash bail anymore or not. It's the difference between having sex work be decriminalized and not. And with every battle that we fight as socialists, we need to remember what the stakes are and ground ourselves in them and why those stakes are important and critical to us as individuals.
Which implies that he is for an authoritarian system of government that would be akin to communism, right?
So true. I'm old enough to remember Mayor Dave Dinkins, the first black mayor of New York. And Giuliani was the answer or the response to Mayor Dinkins, just like Trump was the answer or response to Obama, and Biden was the answer or response to Trump. Sometimes you need the extreme to find the middle. And this guy, Zohan, is extreme. As someone who grew up in New York, I'm going to tell you that people aren't paying attention and there's a huge threat. But the good thing about it is the Democratic Party, in some parts of the Democratic Party, are moving further and further to the left. Those are the most vocal. Those are the most influential, it seems, in the party. But the rest of the country is not there. You need someone like him to become mayor of New York, to do and implement all the things that he says and people think they want. Some people just need to experience it. As much as I love New York, I think that it's better to just have someone go in and just do all the stuff that I view as crazy, that people can see it, that it's not intellectual, it's not academic, it's an actual thing that people see, as opposed to it gradually creeping up. And because New York is one of the largest cities and probably the most known city on the planet, if he goes in there and does what he says he wants to do and he implements these things, and in my view, they will all fail. They will all fail. But people will see, and it will remind people why so many people leave communist countries, leave socialist countries, and come to America. So some people don't know that. And you have a lot of people that have escaped Cuba and all of these other communist or socialist countries, and they tend to be the biggest advocates for America. But there are a lot of American people that have grown up in safety, comfort, and as much as you may feel that it's a racist society, you have not felt the brunt of socialism or communism. So maybe you need to see it in practice. Maybe it has to go beyond something that's in your head and it's Trump against, AOC. Maybe you have to see it in action. Maybe that's what will make the difference. That's why I think it would be great if he is elected.
Not only does he believe in state ownership of all major industries, but he also believes again, the full-blown authoritarian nature of communism, which is what will be required in order to seize the means of production, which he clearly stated was the end goal, right? Socialism is a means to achieve the end goal, which is communism, okay? And communism requires a full-blown authoritarian government. Theoretically speaking, socialism can exist within, a democracy or a republic or whatever, right? But communism is more than that, right? It is an authoritarian government where democracy or a republic does not exist, right? It is a centralized authority that has complete control over the means of production, right? There are no private owners, okay? Everybody basically is equal, okay? Except the elites, right?
Yep, and that's the thing. We often hear people talk about the redistribution of wealth. But remember, wealth in its first sense, or in the fact that people have wealth, it's not distributed. It's not something that just falls out of the sky. People build wealth. Some people inherit it. Yeah, that's fine. But wealth is not just distributed. So the only way you can really distribute wealth is to take the wealthy class that already exists, take the money from them, and then distribute it. But what does that do? It just makes us all equally poor. The idea that, communism and socialism and making smaller gaps between the wealthy and the poor, if you think about it, that's not really what you want. Because in a society where everybody is equally rich or equally poor, then everybody is essentially equally poor, except for the ruling elite. Anyone that has just studied about socialism and communism, it sounds good and it feels good on paper, but in practice, it goes against human nature. Because you do have some people that are more capable, more driven, more ambitious than others. And I think society should reward those people more, because those are the people that will take the chances. Those are the people that will take risks. Now, if you are like a lot of people and you just want enough to get by, you go to work, you just want to be someone who has your job, goes on vacation, raises a family, that's fine too. But you should never expect to be as wealthy as someone that's willing to maybe sacrifice having a family or sacrifice going on vacation that they can build a business. And this whole thing about controlling the means of distribution and the means of production, again, it sounds good academically, but when you have the government controlling any industry, they determine who gets access to it and at what level. One of the great things about a free market with a backstop of socialism, so a backstop where people who cannot work or people who need support get that support, that's a socialist type of government or a socialist type of country. That's okay, but it should not be the primary thing. It should be a backstop. You should have open and free markets where people can produce something. If someone feels that that thing being produced is valuable enough, they'll then exchange their money for that thing. They'll have other options. So that means as the producer, I always have to be better than everyone else. I have to be more innovative. So that's why capitalism, it drives innovation. Because people are always trying to produce things for less, that are better, that are more efficient. And that's why when things initially come out, so when technology or a piece of technology initially comes to market, it's really expensive. But as more people start producing that same thing, the price on that particular thing goes down. So again, on paper, socialism, communism can sound great, but in practice, human nature is not something that is conducive to communism or socialism.
But again, I'm not sure if Zoran understands that he's actually a communist. At first, I thought he was one of these run-of-the-mill socialists who just wants to pay for box without going to jail, right? That's what I believe a lot of these socialists are. A lot of these young socialist dudes, they just want to pay for box without going to jail, right? But I think he's more radical than that. So with that being said, Bakari Sellers, okay, he's gonna get confronted with this reality that Zoran Mandami is in fact a communist, right? And he's going to take issue with it. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get into this.
Tonight, Zohran Mamdani has officially clinched the victory in the Democratic primary for New York City mayor after last week's stunning.
Now, you know how I feel about Abby Phillips. She is in no way objective, and anytime she is moderating a discussion, it's clear what her bias is. And Bakari is another person. Like, again, not attacking the person, but the ideas and the inconsistency of his positions. He is someone with TDS. He is someone that 100% of the time always will be against the conservative viewpoint, no matter what it is, even if it's something that contradicts something that he said in the past.
Upset over former Governor Andrew Cuomo. At the same time, Mamdani is drawing the ire of President Trump, who took direct aim at the Democratic Socialist today.
Zohran Mamdani, who in his nomination speech said he will defy ICE and will not allow ICE to arrest criminal aliens in New York City. Your message to communist Zohran Mamdani?
Well, then we'll have to arrest him. A lot of people are saying he's here illegally. He's, we're going to look at everything.
He's not here illegally, by the way. He is an American citizen.
I really do believe that Trump be saying stuff because he knows that it's going to trigger these people, right? The fact that Abby Phillip felt the need to address that comment, it just tells you everything you need to know about how easy it is to get to these people. It's too easy. It is way too easy. They fall for the trap every single time.
Mamdani's response: his statements don't just represent an attack on our democracy, but an attempt to send a message to every New Yorker who refuses to hide in the shadows. If you speak up, they will come for you. We will not accept this intimidation.
But it would be illegal if he interfered with federal agents who were trying to enforce federal law, would it not?
He can tell city agencies, like the officers in the Department of Corrections, not to bring people over to ICE at Rikers. You can.
So why on earth would you do that? So what she's talking about is when you have someone that is an illegal alien that has also on top of that crime committed another crime and is now in prison in Rikers Island. When they're being released, what ICE agents want to do is go to Rikers Island and have that criminal, because the person was in prison, have that person released to ICE. So it all happens in the safety of a prison where, civilians aren't in the crossfire, where everything can be done decent in order. But what the sanctuary cities are saying is, nope, we're going to just release the person. The person has served their time. And although they are in the country illegally, and on top of that, committed some crime or felony that warranted them going to jail or prison, they just want to release them. And what ICE is saying is, well, we'll come and pick them up. And that's why this whole discussion about ICE and sanctuary cities is a bit disingenuous when people are then saying, well, we're going to release them into the community. And then ICE agents then have to go into the community to then apprehend them. And then people get caught in when I say crossfire, I don't mean actual fire, but there's collateral damage. Because if they go to pick up someone that is an illegal alien that had committed a crime, felony, whatever, and they were in jail or in prison, when they go to pick that person up, everyone that's in that household potentially is caught in the net. And that makes sense, because if, let's just say I commit a crime and the police come to pick me up in my house, and then, you find that people in my house are doing things that they shouldn't or have illegal substances, they're going to be arrested too. But, we try to kind of warp the lines when it comes to the immigration conversation, regardless of how you feel. I think we all agree that if someone is in the country illegally and on top of that is committing crimes and therefore is a danger to the community, I think everybody agrees that they should be dealt with. Yes, they should have their due process, but to a degree, I think that the sanctuary city policies are designed to scupper or prevent the ICE agents from doing it the easy way, that we can have these flashpoints that people can then complain.
Do that. You can't tell ICE what to do if you're in the mayor of the city of New York, but you can tell what your own departments to do, and it can make a big difference. I know that because I passed a bill when I was speaker that said that.
So you're saying that the position of the socialists here in New York now is that they should use city resources to interfere with the federal government's enforcement of the law?
Absolutely not. I'm saying the city resources shouldn't get involved in what the feds are doing. There's no reason that the city resources should make their jobs easier.
But he's running, it's part of his platform. Do you support the platform or not? That's my question, is what's the position of the Democrats in New York? Are they going to follow this socialist trying to interfere with federal agents or not? What will the Democrats do?
He's not trying to interfere with federal agencies.
He's literally said it.
He is going to implement the laws that exist, which prevent city agencies from working in cahoots
That's
with
awfully
federal
cute. That's very cute.
Well, I mean,
Exist for you guys, but not for us.
But to her point, I mean, you're asking, does she support what he's saying? But that's actually already the New York City
Correct.
policy.
That's the
so
law.
it's not something new. That
But I mean,
You see what Abby does. She would never do that in reverse. She would never support or try to clarify what Scott Jennings is saying. It's always the other way around. But I guess, you know, she has her job for a reason, and her ratings will drive her behavior. And if it's keeping her on the air, then hey, who am I to say anything? I'm just some guy on YouTube.
Listen.
I'm
love,
just saying, you're acting as if this is like breaking new ground. It's not, because
it's literally part
Democrats
of his
in New York
already.
already.
I get it.
I know, but I'm saying Democrats in New York already endorsed this because this is the policy.
It's been passed twice.
So just the clear position. So what you're saying is the position of the Democrats in New York is to interfere with the federal government when it comes to enforcing federal immigration law.
No, what the
that's
position,
that's the existing
position
position.
is not to roll out the red carpet for ICE.
Why?
That is the position.
Why shouldn't federal law be enforced in New York just like everywhere else?
The city of New York has the right as a sanctuary city to say we're not going to, in Rikers, allow ICE to set up a table, which they used to do, and walk people over to them.
The most amazing thing about this discussion.
You know what I love about Scott Jennings? Is that he does this thing where he reframes the Democrats and their positions in a way that is simple, so people understand just how cool for Cocoa Puffs they actually are. Because basically what he just did with his woman is that, in a nutshell, he made her explain, why is it that you support not enforcing federal immigration law, right? Do you guys actually really support not allowing ICE to do their job? And the answer to that question is yes. That is the answer to the question. If you want to really drill it down and make it simple for people to understand, which is what Scott Jennings is doing, right?
The other thing that Scott Jennings does that I really like is I like when he does that look at the camera. So he like looks at the camera to say, oh my, I do that with my wife sometimes. Like that look of, oh my gosh, can you believe what this person is saying right now? Scott Jennings is an actual Mac. Not because he's always right, but because he's usually in the lion's den and he will stand his ground.
That's the G's behind all this. That's what they support.
And it's where the mayor will use their power to reject Donald Trump's fascism, to stop mass ICE agents from deporting our neighbors, and to govern our city as a model for the Democratic Party.
Well, you know, the border czar, Tom Homan, has said that he is planning to deploy ICE agents to New York, worksite enforcement to essentially increase and enhance the number of ICE agents here. If that happens on your watch, how do you plan to handle it?
We have to stand up and fight back, and we haven't seen that from our current mayor, who is...
See, this is why he needs to win. This is why he needs to win, because I think the people in New York want safe streets. They certainly 100% want to protect their neighbors and they want to protect themselves. But that does mean taking criminals off the street, even more so criminals that should not be in the country to begin with. So every country, every society has always had bad people, and that's just a fact of life. And the argument that, you know, people that come from other countries are less likely to commit crimes, I don't know how true that is. But what I would say, any criminal in any society needs to be dealt with. And then when you have a criminal in a society that should not be in that society to begin with, it just creates a whole new layer of urgency.
has instead been working with the Trump administration to assist in their goal of building the single largest deportation force in American history. I mean, we saw ICE agents arrest a migrant at Federal Plaza, and then we saw NYPD officers arresting a pastor who was peacefully observing that arrest. Those days are going to come to an end when I'm the mayor. The NYPD's job is to create public safety in the city, not to assist ICE agents in their mission to attack the very fabric of this city.
Yeah, so I want you guys to understand exactly what he's saying, because you got to weave through the socialist BS, right? This guy loves that fluffy talk. He specifically says he wants to stop President Trump and his quote-unquote fascism, right? He wants to stop the largest mass deportation operation in American history, which means that he wants to obstruct. Okay, we know this because of the means in which they want to stop the president from doing so. Like, for example, he talked...
Before I let him finish that, one thing that I think the framing would be really good is if the current administration was to say how they are doing compared to how Obama did when he was deporting people. So they could say, well, at this point in Obama's administration, this is how many people had been deported, and this is the run rate that we are working against. Because if they were to frame it that way, I think some people that are just opposed or unaware of how many people Obama deported, if they were to open up that conversation, then maybe people would be more open to the idea. And I do think that most Americans do support the idea that it's just the implementation sometimes. But what makes the implementation difficult is the sanctuary cities. And this guy needs to be elected. I can't say it enough. We need to make sure that he gets in, he gets the opportunity to implement these ideas that people can see in real time how they actually work in practice.
Talked about the illegal being arrested at a federal, keyword, federal courthouse. He wants to stop ICE agents from being able to arrest illegals on federal property. Now, how do you think he's going to do that? How do you think he's going to do it? That goes beyond just New York enforcing their laws, because their laws are irrelevant in regards to what ICE, federal agents, are able to do on federal property, right? Their laws are completely and totally irrelevant. So if you take the next logical step and you say, okay, well, how exactly is he going to do that? Well, it would have to be obstruction. It goes beyond just, well, we're not going to cooperate. No, they're going to actively go out of their way to obstruct. Okay, we've seen this across the country, okay, in regards to what they want to do. I mean, these people had a whole protest across the country over ICE, right? And they went out of their way to try to attack ICE, to obstruct, and to stop them from arresting illegals, okay? Even though local law enforcement in cities like Los Angeles, they weren't cooperating with ICE. ICE was just doing their jobs without local law enforcement, without cooperation. And they were still upset. They were still mad. Again, they had a whole nationwide protest over this. So you would be naive to believe that, well, we just don't want cooperation. No, they want to go further than that, right? I wouldn't be surprised if this dude was so Looney Tunes that he would try to use the NYPD against federal agents. Wouldn't be surprised at all. Wouldn't be surprised at all. And that's why I don't think President Trump was out of bounds by saying that, yeah, this dude can be arrested. Right? If he tries to obstruct, because he's so radical that he may actually try to do that. Right? He may actually try to use NYPD against federal agents. So, hey, I think the president did the right thing by basically warning this guy that, yeah, if this is something that you attempt to do, there are going to be consequences.
Is that you have people like Frank Scott, right, who's the mayor of Little Rock, Arkansas, and you have people like Randall Woodfin, who's the mayor of Birmingham, Alabama, who are cities and capital cities of great southern states who've reduced their crime by 50%, who are the future of the Democratic Party. You have people like Abigail Spanberger. You have people like Mikey Sherrill, who are not only running for governor in Virginia, but New Jersey, respectively. Helena Moreno, running for mayor of New Orleans, of these major cities who have platforms and plans. I love how Republicans have actually just kind of, and Democrats, respectfully, in New York have kind of galvanized and said that the world revolves around us.
Well,
I'm going to the barbershop on Thursday, and my barber does not care. I need a tape up, I know, but my barber Tremaine does not care about who the mayor of.
My barber Tremaine, right? He got to let the world know that his barber is black.
Oh, man, these black liberals are so silly. New York City is. He
Listen,
simply does not.
Listen,
And
comrade, it's an important city.
can you not touch me? Can you not touch me?
Pete,
I was waiting on
your
that.
thoughts
I was
on
waiting
this?
on that.
I mean, we glossed over the fact that Trump threatened to arrest him and called him
deport him.
illegal, but that's, I guess just another day.
Yeah, well, and I should point out this whole, he says that he's a democratic socialist. He's a socialist, I'll be kind. But calling him a communist is not far off base when he talks about seizing the means of production. That is a communist party plank. He is talking about doing that. So I don't have any problem with calling him what he is.
And I don't have any problem calling Donald Trump a felon or charged with rape, or the fact that he doesn't pay his vendors, or the fact that he's racist because he illegally
This is how he was
So I don't have any
reelected
problem.
to be
And you're
president.
right. And
As
you know
all
what?
of
You
those
may
things.
have a Democratic socialist elected as mayor of New York City.
No, you agree with Pete that he is a communist then?
He's not a
He's a socialist.
He said
is
seize the
not
means
a
of production.
He's a socialist.
He is not a communist.
I'm not a
He
socialist, but he
literally
calls
he's,
himself.
he's using the language of the Bolsheviks, is he not?
He
That's
is
no,
not a
he's not. He's
All
a
right.
socialist, not a communist. Those are
Seizing the
different.
means of production?
That's called socialism, not communism.
Use that
you're
the
putting-
USSR and Stone
Those are
Dormer
different
debaters.
things,
That's where you
though.
hear
I mean,
that
like,
stuff.
you understand
Everyone
they're
coming up
different.
next, the panel is going to give us their nightcap.
Okay, see, that's the type of stuff I like to see. But the name calling, not good. The putting people in a category that they don't put themselves in, not good. I think this whole thing about calling Trump a felon is what they wanted in the first place. It backfired. And when those cases, after he comes out of office, anything can happen. We'll see what happens with that. But maybe those charges will end up being dropped by that time, and then they'll have spent all this time calling him something that then gets erased. It's pointless. But anyway, I think that we need to have this man elected as mayor. I think it will show people what it looks like to have someone with those viewpoints, whether they are socialist or communist viewpoints, and people can see it in action. And that's really the point of this video. Make sure that you support a Black conservative perspective, where I got the original video to react to. Make sure you help get him to 1 million views, and make sure you like, subscribe, and comment on this video. If I'm wrong about something, please tell me. If I mispronounce somebody's name, please tell me that as well. I'm open to being wrong, and sometimes I talk too fast, and I don't want to spend all my time editing things out because these are real conversations. So thanks for supporting, and I'll see you in the next video.